This time I'm gonna also have to study a lot because I just never want to feel that feeling of failing again. I never want to feel that feeling of failing again. That was such a gross sentence. The alliteration though, beautiful. Y'all, people will tell me that my hair has grown and I don't notice until I like look back at film. Like my camera just turned off because my SD card was full. I turned it off and was like deleting all of the videos that I had in my camera. Excuse me, gross. Realized that my hair has gotten longer, but I mean that's normal because it's been like 4 months since I cut it, so you would hope it's gotten longer, but you know. Anyways, making this video basically to document how my study habits have changed from August to now November. We're about to go on Thanksgiving break in literally 13 days. Yes, I'm counting down because I'm burnt out, like super burnt out. And I feel like my study habits have really transformed. Like I said last week in my description, I got the best score I've ever received, and it wasn't necessarily like a super easy test in the way that like it was a lot of information, but it was easier in the fact that it was a lot of memorization. So like, yes, you had to understand things, but you didn't have to understand them too in depth. You kind of just needed to like memorize it. But I think it gave me a good idea of what works for me and what doesn't. And so I'm just going to reflect on things that I did in the past. So let's begin. Okay, first and foremost, I'm pulling up my old stuff in my iPad because, concerningly so, I was making master notes for everything. And all of my master notes were like 10 pages long because I was answering every learning objective, and I thought that was super smart. Like, this is way too long. Obviously, it took me super long to do these, okay? And I'm looking in here, and I had about 22 of these because there were so many slugs. And I had 22 of them, and that was like a super duper duper big waste of time. Like, I cannot believe I was doing that. But I only knew how to do master notes because last year when I was taking a master's course for biochemistry, because that's like one of our program's requirements, I was doing master notes. However, I had like months in between my next test. Like, they were like 3 big tests within the whole semester, and I had months in between, and I just did long master notes because I was able to. In 10 days, it makes absolutely no sense for me to have done all those master notes and wasted all that time. And like, I will tell you, I was supposed to go through and like annotate them, and I'm going back just to see how many I annotated, and I annotated like, it seems like I annotated none of them. I think I annotated like 2 or 3. So obviously the objective was to like go through it many times, and like you make your own study sheet and then figure out what's important to you, what's important to the test, what adheres to the learning objectives. They said learn all the learning objectives, and that did not serve me well because I passed, but like by a small margin. I think I passed by like 5 or 6 points. And that to me was disappointing because it was biochemistry and I had seen it before, and I had seen it in depth and like taken a class on it. Granted, I didn't always understand everything that was going on in that class, but I felt like I knew enough that it should like be okay. Obviously it wasn't. That was not good. That was my strategy for the first test. And so the lesson I learned for the first test was you don't have enough time to do master notes, so like stop doing that. Then for the second test, it's like really a blur, but I think I overstudied for the second test because like the whole class passed that one, and apparently like we all just overstudied for it. I thought they kind of just gave it to us, like, oh, because we complained a lot about the material, and we thought they just kind of gave us a test, but that apparently that was a real test. They did not change it. I feel like I prepared and over-prepared and I did well on it, but I didn't feel like I earned it. Now in retrospect, I think I did. I just like was studying like a maniac, as I should have. That test, I did a lot of Anki. Let me see if I still have some of my Anki stuff. I don't really know what I did for test 2, to be honest. I wasn't doing master notes anymore, so I'm assuming that I was just doing Anki because I'm looking at the Anki and it seems like I was doing mostly Anki. Now for the third test, which was also within Foundations 2 module, I was doing Anki because it was a lot of anatomy and I needed to see things over and over again. I was in the lab a lot, like in the actual lab with all the donors. I think that was helpful because I was actually engaging. I went to a lot of recitation sessions where they were like doing rapid fire, like do you know it, do you not kind of thing. And that was helpful for me in terms of the practical, but I neglected the other part of the exam, which I tend to do. I usually like hyper focus on one thing and neglect the rest. And so I passed, but again, barely. And I think that's just because I knew more about one part of the test and not enough about the other. For the fourth test, am I in the fourth test? Oh, the fourth test, I failed, right? Fourth test, I unfortunately failed, and that was on stuff that I was just like, whoa, what's going on? I felt like the fourth test kind of was a shock for me to fail. I can't really tell you what I feel like I did super wrong because I had a tutor, because I felt like I was struggling with the material and I still didn't pass by like one question. So I think I just didn't study hard enough, honestly. Like I knew I was struggling and I didn't study hard enough. I thought the tutor would be a good supplement for like putting in more work. I thought, okay, well, I've been passing this much so far, like I should be okay. We get to test 5 and I'm so nervous about failing again because I had already failed before that I passed with flying colors. I want to use test 5 strategies for this test. The hard part is every test is different, so you don't really know like how to study for things. So we're doing genomics and cardio, and like I'm not really sure how I'm going to attack it yet. For genomics, I think I'm just going to, I made like little baby master notes, I think for test, what was that? I made baby master notes for the test that I failed, and I tried to make them all under 3 pages instead of 10, and I would just like put the most important information, make it super succinct. Turns out that was also like very stupid because I wasn't able to go over it, and that's not because they were too long, it was because I did them too late. I'm gonna see how that works for me this time. Also, the information like wasn't something I could just read and like memorize. I had to actually understand it conceptually. The genomics, I think I can just read and memorize. I don't need to necessarily know it like, how does this work, how does this work, how does this work. It kind of just, what is this test for genetics, who's it gonna test for, blah blah blah. Like I think it'll be okay. Now for cardio, I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do because I haven't looked at the material yet, so I'm not really sure. But I will say for the last test that I did really well on, I did a lot of Anki, I did some spreadsheets, I did a lot of Sketchy. I mean a lot of Sketchy. If you've never heard of Sketchy, it's like a study tool that basically tells you all these like stories and mnemonics, ways to memorize things, and people like swear by it, and I was like, I'm just gonna try it, and I did, and I think that's a major reason why I remembered stuff, because all the things from Sketchy is what I remembered essentially. And I studied a lot, like a lot. So this time I'm gonna also have to study a lot because I just never want to feel that feeling of failing again. I never want to feel that feeling of failing again. That was such a gross sentence. The alliteration though, beautiful. Yeah, I don't want to fail, so I'm just going to study again. And hopefully, well, this time I will pass again. I just will continue to pass, but it has definitely been a challenge to figure out like what works for me, because I felt like I had started to figure it out last year, and you know, I don't know if I can't always remember what I talk about in my videos, but the program that I was in, the early medical school selection program, do these classes that are like master's course level in order to challenge us to like see if we can handle the rigor of med school. If you want me to talk about my program, like comment below. I could talk about more pipeline programs and stuff. Like that's something I would like to explore on my YouTube channel. But yeah, they made us take classes that were stressful and had, you know, a good amount of rigor to them so that we could figure out what our learning style was and what helped us like with studying. But you kind of have to throw some of that out the window, because what they don't tell you is most of it is contingent upon time, and med school's time frame is completely different to master's schools or master's courses time frames in terms of time in between tests. Because even like the fatigue that I feel now and the burnout that I feel now is, I thought that I had it last year. It's nothing. Like you don't really get a chance to breathe in med school whereas at least you have like 8 weeks between each test for whatever like course you're in undergrad. So yeah, I think learning how to manage my time, learning how to not like dilly-dally and just like punch it at the end, because like I feel this rush when I procrastinate that I just have to like, you know, stop doing. I think this test I'll have to do a little bit of rote memorization and figure out like how cardio works. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, I'm gonna start the slugs for cardio tomorrow, and just pray for me, everybody, that I continue to pass my test. Thanks for watching. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe to my channel. It's the black girl trying to survive out here, okay? So thank y'all for watching, and I'll check in with y'all later.